Hello and welcome to the VMware Cloud Foundation Live. My name is Pete Fletcher, and joining me this week to talk about the economics. Oh, excuse me. Hold on a second. We're doing it live here. Got to get rid of a couple of things. Here we go. Let me try that again. Hello and welcome to the VMware Cloud Foundation Live. It's a monthly live stream where we discuss strategies and solutions for your cloud infrastructure journey. As I mentioned, I'm Pete Fletcher, and today we're talking about the economics of cloud as it pertains to VMware Cloud Foundation. And joining me to have this conversation is the head of VCF Cloud Economics, Drew Nielsen. Drew, welcome.
Pete, great to be here.
You know, it's funny, I do these live, right? And it's so much better when you pre-record them so you don't make mistakes. Cause like, as soon as I started talking, I heard my head like 30 seconds delayed. And that was like, yeah, so that was a little confusing. So great way to start.
All
How
good.
you doing, Drew?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I love your background, man. What's going on there? It looks beautiful.
We've got, during the pandemic, like everyone else, we were holed up at home and I was building Lego Technic supercars and 3D printing. So, yeah, it kind of took over the garage a bit.
Very nice. Looks super futuristic, but I love it. So, yeah, Drew, we're talking about the economics of cloud. I've seen you do this presentation before, and it has a really cool story. It really lands, and I thought this would be a great VMware Cloud Foundation live. So, why don't we do this? We'll start with the presentation, have the conversation. For those listening, if you've got any questions, by all means, throw them in the chat. We're happy to entertain those as we go. But Drew, why don't we start with the basics? Like maybe you can just start with the presentation.
Yep. No, sounds great. And let's try to keep this as conversational as possible today. But really, when we talk about VCF, we're talking about the economics of the cloud operating model in your data center. And the way I like to talk about this when I talk to customers is think of a house, and all houses have foundations. But historically, as we've built out IT infrastructure, we have these silos around compute, network, and storage, which is tantamount to when building a house, like I'm going to go hire 3 or 4 cement contractors to build that foundation. So they're going to use different mixes, different water ratios, maybe different types of concrete. And while it all looks good and holds together at first, over time, it starts to develop cracks, the house shifts, things sag. And when you think about that from an IT perspective, what's riding on that foundation? The most critical thing in your organization, and that is your applications. So as we move to VCF and with the acquisition of Broadcom, it's been really great because now we can be laser focused on a single offering that delivers value across the stack to all of our customers. We already qualify network, compute, and storage in a single offering. So essentially, it's a single contractor who's building that technology foundation for your business to run your applications on top of. And when we think about this from an economics perspective, we have one mission, and that is to save you CapEx and OpEx while giving you a secure and integrated cloud foundation to generate revenue and to drive business agility. That is our stated purpose. And really, it's also about the agility. And as you look at traditional IT environments, you have your storage silos, your networking silos, your security silos, and all those groups have to piece things together. Or if they want to do upgrades, they've got to time them. Or, hey, some patches come out, let's one time of the month, and maybe some patches come out later, and you have to cross integrate all that stuff. And then if I'm an application owner, or if I'm the business, I'm looking at IT going, all right, I just want to get my stuff out. I want to get to my customers. I want to generate revenue. And, as one customer described it to me, this kind of environment of building a data center has almost become a passion project.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
it really has. Because if you look at what VCF is doing, delivering you a true, consistent private cloud, you've got management, you've got compute, storage, and networking with an overlay of security and lifecycle automation. So whether you want to be in the private cloud, the public cloud, you want to do sovereign clouds, get on the edge, VCF is there to support you all the way through that journey.
Yeah, I have to say, I love the idea that you came up with, excuse me, of that foundation. One of the things I used to say all the time when I first started thinking about VMware Cloud Foundation, for me, the value prop would be like, man, there's, like we all like in IT probably have at one time or another, built our own computers, and there used to be a sense of pride for that, like, oh, I'm going to choose the perfect motherboard, the perfect video card, get this type of memory, and use these types of hard drives, and I know gamers still do that to a certain extent. But one thing for sure, if anyone who's ever done that in mass quantity, especially for like IT organizations, A, doesn't scale. B, there's usually problems. Maybe you break a board, or you find out that this graphics card is not compatible with this, and then there's whether the software is consistent. So there's always been this thing of like, it would be so much better if we just knew that it was all tested, vetted on the same hardware or whatever. And I've always felt like that was a good example. However, I like yours even better because of the fact we're talking about a foundation. And then there's something on top of it, our house, our big investment, that's even more important. And then you got to get the foundation right. And so I love that. I love that analogy. I thought that was a really good way to explain it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, if any of you have ever had like a home improvement project,
Oh, I've had a few of them
it,
actually.
it's it would be nice if you could go to one contractor who wasn't subbing it out to multiple contractors to figure it out, and that just extends over. Because I mean, if you look at even within data center evolution, it used to be okay, we'll buy the best of breed across all these different lines, and then you started seeing these deeper vendor relationships coming through. And really, as you look at it, VMware Cloud Foundation is really that one stop shop for your compute network storage and management in a single interface. And that's really what drives that story.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to get into this case study, but I did, by all means, for those that are in the comments, hello to everyone that's coming from all over the place. We see people from China, Colombia, California,
South
and all that
Africa.
stuff. Yeah, South Africa.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, for Imzai, it says enterprise customers should understand that you can bring up a VCF stack in about 3 to 4 hours. That's pretty incredible, man. I mean, if anyone who's ever built infrastructure in the past, they know that they know the
Oh, yeah.
difficulties of getting everything up. So yeah, I agree. That is actually an excellent point. So continue.
Well, let's talk about one of our customers that we did a TCO case study on. And this was an existing global customer, and they developed software. And there were really three key stakeholders in this process. You had your CFO looking to realize margin improvement and reduce their overall OpEx costs. You had a CISO that wanted to improve security overall, reduce the vendor count. And then you had IT that not only wanted to reduce tech debt while updating their infrastructure, they were also getting a lot of pressure from the CFO to be able to reduce their CapEx and OpEx costs just overall. So as we went through and moved them to VCF, and this is a 5-year TCO, overall from their existing solution, which was a 3-tier, monolithic type of data center, that number went from about 27 million down to about 19. On their overall hard costs for CapEx and OpEx, that went from about 12 million to 7.5. And as far as their people costs were concerned, it went from about 9 million to 5 million. And when we look at people costs, this is not about sending people home. This is about driving business agility so that those people can be redeployed to drive the business rather than trying to stitch together a legacy 3-tier infrastructure. And their overall savings at 38% for their hard costs, 45 on their labor costs. Those numbers, they are not the same for everybody. This is a very specific customer case, but on average, this is what we see. And we see this whether, across all different verticals, financial services, healthcare, telco, etc.
Yeah, for sure. Real
Yeah,
quick, there's someone's
yeah.
asking if they want to be able to ask some questions after the presentation. Absolutely. By all means, put your questions now. We've got folks, moderators monitoring the chat and can answer any questions that you may have. And yeah, go ahead and continue, Drew.
No, all good. So one of the things when we talk to our customers, we hear a lot about, I've got my data center. Am I going to go to the public cloud, or, do I go VCF, or do I just keep doing what I'm doing? And as you look at your traditional data center costs, and like I go back to that one customer that I talked to who's like, data centers are a passion project. In this scenario, that $5.9 million in your traditional data center column, that is the cost of doing nothing. That is the devil you know. That is just continuing to, deal with tech debt, keep your head above water, and just making it work day to day. That's not necessarily getting you anywhere near digital transformation. That's not getting anywhere near a cloud operating model in your data center. Now, the next piece is for those customers that want to move to public cloud. And what we typically see in the public cloud where things get really expensive really fast is support, which is one of the things that we bundle into the subscription price of VCF. If you want premium support in the public cloud, you are going to pay for it.
Oh yeah.
The other thing is just from an infrastructure perspective, while facilities costs and those things go down, labor costs go down, you are going to be buying more of the infrastructure pieces because it's not as simple as swiping a credit card, buying a compute instance, buying a storage instance. You've got to build up everything else around that. You've got to get your load balancers, your firewalls, your virtual private clouds, what we like to call functional equivalents. You're going to have to stitch all that together, or you're going to have to have the people to stitch all that together for you.
Yeah.
And that, go ahead, Pete.
I'm just sorry. I was just looking at the slide. What is that 1 million there for the transition?
For the transition costs to native public cloud, so on average, to move 1,000 VMs, I believe it's I believe it's 1,000 VMs to the public cloud. It's about $1 million. So it's about $1,000 a VM. And in that from that perspective, what we see is a lot of customers will try to move it themselves, and then they're like, oh hey, I'm going to move 20, 30 apps. They move two in about 18 months, and then they come back and they reevaluate. But I mean, if you look at it overall from a public cloud perspective, VCF will save you about 40%. And that's an average number. You know, your mileage will vary because each one of these types of economic engagements that we do with our customers is unique to that environment. Now, theoretically, over time, that $1 million, Pete, that you picked out, you could gain that back in TCO. And in that scenario, you could drive the cost of native public cloud a little bit less expensive. But the thing about public cloud is the savings come in the sense of I'm only going to pay for what I use. But how many IT shops do you know, and how many businesses do you know that run based on admins sitting there turning on and turning off services when they're done using them? I mean,
Yeah, that
nobody operates an entire infrastructure on spot pricing. I mean,
no, that's not reality.
unless you may know one that I do not. Um, but in that reality as well, even over the traditional data center with VMware Cloud Foundation, we're looking at up to like a 50% cost reduction in that space as well.
That's nice. I like that.
So closing this out, if you're a VMware customer, come on this journey with us. We have a tool called the VMware Value Modeler. Your sales representatives can walk you through that. You'll meet with a VMware Cloud economics expert, and we sit down, we get an idea of your environment. We get your IT finance people there, and we go through a few sessions, and we will give you a transparent cost comparison between what you're doing now and how VMware Cloud Foundation can help you.
So you guys, I see on here it says that there's like a data dump of your virtual environment, and just for sizing purposes. Is this anything like the like a lot of POCs that I see where they just want to show that this actually works with my tech? Clearly this is more of an economics discussion, correct?
Very much so. This is very
Yeah,
much
yeah,
an economics discussion.
yeah. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
this
But
is
I
a
like
this
that you
is,
can
this
do
is a
that.
cost discussion, and you can get as detailed as you want. I mean, we have full transparency within our models, and we will sit down and go line by line with you and walk through, what are your use cases, what are your workloads, and go from there.
I like it. I like it. So Drew, like, what's the state of play for most customers, like when they start their economic journey with VCF?
A lot of the customers that I see, they are vSphere and vCenter. They are possibly looking at virtualizing other parts of their infrastructure, so their storage and their networking. I would say, just from all of the analysis that we've done, probably about 80% haven't gone through and like done a proper right sizing engagement.
Hmm.
We see a lot of excess compute, excess memory storage, those kind of things. And really, I think with the acquisition to Broadcom from by Broadcom of VMware, this is now a time where you have to get laser focused on your infrastructure and how you're going to go about acquiring VMware technology.
Okay. Okay. And so, customers that are looking, I know with all the changes since the acquisition of VMware by Broadcom, there's been, I feel like there's a lot of great content out there. Yeah, matter of fact, quick plug on that. For those that are not aware, we're doing this live stream, so you're here, so you're obviously aware of that. The next one we have coming up is on VMware Private AI Foundation. I look forward to seeing that one. There's also another, we have the Virtually Speaking podcast where my co-host John Nicholson and I just did a full series on VMware Cloud Foundation, walking through from a technical perspective all the various components. So look for that, and you'll see that on the VMware Cloud Foundation YouTube channel, which is the last plug here. This is where, if you're trying to understand any of the technical understandings of the various components of deployment, day 0 to day 2 operations, just really understanding anything about VMware Cloud Foundation, there's a great YouTube channel, VMware Cloud Foundation, that you can check out there. But my question for you is, when someone's looking at VMware Cloud Foundation, like what's the main benefit of going through the economic assessment first?
Well, one, they get a lot of clarity into the cost of their environment. I think number two is they look at the overall VMware Cloud Foundation journey. You can see at various points in that journey of, look, if I'm adopting vSphere with ARIA, I'm going to see about a 10% savings. If I move to storage, that savings is going to bump up to about 31%. And then if I go all in with the entire stack, that's how I realize that 50% number that we talked about in the previous slide. And really it's about going through and understanding, given what levers I pull and what I do and my adoption of VMware technology, what does that do to my overall savings and TCO? But more importantly, what's going to be my return on investment?
Yeah, yeah. Quick comment here from Malik. How does VCF fit into the VMware AI Foundation puzzle? Do you want to take that one, or shall I?
I'll
uh,
let you.
all right, yeah. Basically, the beauty, and we've got next month. There's going to be a session on this, but there's already plenty of great sessions out there as it pertains to VMware Private AI Foundation. But the beauty of it is this is part of VMware Cloud Foundation. So like you can, if you're getting into private AI and you start to understand the value of that, this is part of the offering of VCF. It comes inside, vSphere, you have that ability to spin up. And it's a completely automated deployment to get you in a position where you can actually start running models for your private AI environments. And so lots of information on the VMware on core.vmware.com, as well as the VMware Cloud Foundation YouTube channel talking about private AI. So absolutely. But Drew, another question for you: public cloud. We talk about VMware Cloud Foundation. Most people probably consider that a private cloud solution. But what
Mhm.
about public cloud? Like, how does that fit into the economics conversation?
As you may have seen with our recent announcement with Google, you'll be seeing our VCF stack deployed out there, also with a lot of different cloud providers. And really, that VCF stack will allow you to put your workloads wherever you want, but more importantly, give you the mobility to move them around and have them on the appropriate infrastructure that they require. So as this goes forward, VCF will become ubiquitous in that space, and that investment that you've made in VCF in your data center will give you the license portability to do that as well.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I know you work in this cloud economics division. I know you've been doing a lot of briefings. You've been talking to a lot of customers. I'm curious, like, what's the biggest change that you've seen when it comes to economic conversations around VCF?
Yeah, I think it's one that the interest in expanding into NSX and vSAN and what that journey looks like. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the Virtually Speaking podcast, and I was listening to Pete Keeler a couple weeks ago, who goes super deep on vSAN. But the ability to take, take out monolithic storage costs and move a lot of your storage tasks to x86 hardware, and having being able to roll some of those functions into the overall VMware environment. Another thing is the conversations around the intrinsic security throughout the platform, and the power of NSX. Not only can NSX and does NSX really give you the ability to delay costs of having to constantly, upgrade your Cisco infrastructure every three years or so, but it also gives you that security visibility within the environment. Because I saw a number from our team last week. It was like 80% of the traffic inside of a virtual environment never sees the top, never sees the top of rack switch.
Hmm.
So in that, you know, those conversations I think are what are most interesting to customers to really understand, how do I get a total visibility into my virtual environment?
Yeah, absolutely. Quick question from here from Praveen: Is Tanzu still a part of the VCF stack for orchestration? Yeah, I mean, the VMware Cloud Foundation orchestration, mainly handled by Aria for all of the automation and all that. SCDC Manager still doing all of the deployment, but yeah, Tanzu is still a big part, and it is part of the core VCF offering. TKG, Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. There's also a ton of add-ons as it pertains to Tanzu in the offering. So yes, absolute yes to that. Cool. All right. So Drew, for customers that are maybe just vSphere and vCenter, not the full VCF stack, what's the next move for them from an economic perspective? Do you think?
I think it's, pick your next step in terms of, do you want to go tackle storage? Do you want to tackle networking, or do you want to tackle automation? And that's really going to be a conversation of what makes sense for your environment. We do see a lot of customers going after storage because there's a lot of costs there that, vSAN with the new enhanced storage architecture, or ESA, does an amazing job on performance. I talk to a lot of customers that are looking at SAP on VCF because we have an HCI solution there that I believe has been certified by SAP now. So, if you're looking at your CRM, and, I have other customers that are like, okay, look, let's pick some apps that we want to put on VCF and understand what that workflow looks like and what that migration is, and go from there.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, the Express Storage Architecture ESA is fantastic. Like for those that are into vCenter know that it is night and day compared to the original storage architecture, which certainly had its place when back when we first came out with vSAN and the two-tier architecture made sense from an economics perspective for sure, because back then the cost of flash was ridiculous, and in some countries was just not even possible. And so having a two-tier architecture where you could have your most expensive media in your caching area and then push off, for cheap and deep into a separate tier made a lot of sense. But now when the cost of flash has definitely gone down, the economics work, and the performance gains that you get from ESA, like we've talked to some customers on Virtually Speaking that literally have said they've received a 10x gain just in performance in their vSAN environments for ESA. And of course, the vSAN Max being a big part of the vSAN story now. So it's pretty cool that all of this stuff now just becomes, if you're a vSAN expert, great. But the beauty of VCF is that it just all comes in. You get all that automatically. When you're deploying it, it literally deploys it for you. When you set up your first management domain, vSphere, vSAN, NSX, all set up for you. It's actually pretty slick.
Hey, Pete, there's a question in the chat there from one of the LinkedIn users that says, "What are the VCF expansions into Gov for IL2, 4, 5, and 6?" That is something that we are working with our federal teams on right now, and we will have more about that. And Pete, I think once that happens, that would be a great episode for you to have on LinkedIn Live.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely do that once we get more information for sure. Yeah, excellent. Cool. All right, so let's see. I think those are all the questions I had. I don't know if there's any other questions in the chat we want to tackle. But yeah, this, I know we talked about it from the beginning. A lot of questions here. A lot of folks from South Africa in here. Hey, very cool. No, yeah. So, but yeah, bringing it back to the beginning, I really do love the I love the analogy that you've come up with for this in terms of putting yourself on the right foundation, and not going through various vendors and various concrete producers, because clearly, your investment is worth more than that and you want to have it on safe. So I do love that. I think it's fantastic. For those interested, as I mentioned, more information, reach out to your TAMs if you want to learn more about the VMware Value Modeler. Hit up Drew. Drew, you can hit Drew anywhere. Like, he's everywhere. Drew Nielsen would be happy to talk to you. I'll leave his personal phone number in the chat so you guys can call him at night. And yeah, thanks
Yeah,
to
Pete,
Drew Wright
remember, I
for
can post your personal phone number too.
absolutely. Thanks to Drew Wright for answering the questions in the chat as well. But yeah, this has been a cool conversation, Drew. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to having you on in a future date.
All right, man.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
All right.